Siyempre, una sa lahat, gusto ko munang pasalamatan kayo lahat na nanonood ng aking video lectures. Maraming salamat sa mga nag-subscribe at sa mga magsusubscribe pa po. So, another topic on investment. This time, we are going to focus more on financial asset measured at fair value through OCI. OCI is the acronym for Other Comprehensive Income. Meron tayong dalawang securities na pwede nating ma-purchase sa isang corporations. Ito yung tinatawag na equity securities at ang ating debt securities. So maraming classifications itong dalawang ito. Meron tayong dalawang klase ng securities or investment. Itong tinatawag na investment in equity, shares of stock ng corporations, at ito ngang investment in bonds, na bonds naman ng corporations na binili ng investor. So, napag-usapan na natin sa investment in equity ang ating financial asset measured at fair value through profit or loss, which is also known as the trading securities. Yung mga hindi pa po nakakapanood ng ating investment overview at ng trading securities, yung mga links ay nasa baba po. Description ng video lectures na ito. Sa investment in equity, meron tayong financial asset through FVOCI at meron din tayong financial assets na fair value through OCI. So what qualifies this investment or securities as financial asset measured at fair value through OCI? So paano ba nadidetermine ng investor or ng company na ika-classify niya ito as fair value through OCI? This time, pag-uusapan natin yung equity securities at ng debt securities. Alright? Itong investment in equity na financial asset at itong investment in bonds na financial asset. So, under equity securities, kina-classify natin ito as financial asset measured at fair value through OCI by irrevocable designation. So, anong ibig sabihin nito? Kapag classify ng company or ng investor ang kanyang securities, ang ibig sabihin, yan na po ang classifications ng securities na yan from the time of the transaction date up to the time na ibibenta mo na itong securities na ito. Irrevocable. Therefore, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-reclassify sa iba pang classifications gaya ng trading securities. So, yan ang equity securities. Dito naman sa debt securities, naka-qualify siya as financial assets measured at fair value through OCI kapag ang business model. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng business model? Ang business model ay ito yung intention mo, yung purpose ng investor sa pag-invest niya ng money sa corporations. Ano yung reason niya kung bakit siya nag-i-invest sa corporations? Kapag ang business model mo or intention mo ay so, ito ang mga business models na dapat masatisfy ng investor in order to classify this debt securities or investment in bonds as financial asset measured at fair value through OCI. Kapag ang business model ng investor is to collect the contractual cash flows and by selling the financial asset. The intention of the investor is to hold these securities in a longer time than the trading securities. Sa trading securities, binibenta niya kaagad in a short term. Pero dito sa FVOCI, long term ito. So, collecting the contractual cash flows and by selling the financial asset. And then the other one to be classified as FVOCI, itong securities na ito, the contractual cash flows are solely payments of principal and interest on the principal outstanding. So, anong ibig sabihin nun? Dito po sa bonds, debt securities is the investment in bonds. Alright? Sa bonds na yon, meron po tayong principal amount at ng interest. Kung ang intention, business model ng investor ay para makakolekta siya ng interest at ibibenta rin din lang niya yon at makolekta niya yung principal, then pwede nating i-classify ito as financial asset through FVOCI. Ito yung mga reason kung bakit naka-qualify itong ating investment or securities sa financial asset measured at fair value through OCI. So ano naman ang mga concepts na kailangan nating malaman when it comes to these classifications of the investment financial asset measured at fair value through OCI or other comprehensive income. So ito ang mga concepts na dapat natin tandaan when it comes to solving problems with regards to the financial asset measured at fair value through OCI or other comprehensive income. So mag-umpisa tayo sa concept ng initial recognition. Alright, so initial recognitions. Ang initial recognition is kung magkano mo i-measure ang iyong securities or financial assets on the transaction date. Yun ang initial measurement mo. Yan ang tinatawag na initial recognition. So, ang initial recognition ng financial asset through FVOCI ay ang fair value or the acquisition cost of the securities plus the direct transaction cost. So, the initial recognition is the fair value or the acquisition cost kung magkano mo siya nabili plus your direct transaction cost. Ano ba itong transaction cost? Meron tayong dalawang klase ng transaction cost. We have the direct transaction cost at yung indirect transaction cost. So, ano ba itong mga transaction costs? Ito po yung mga directly related sa pag-acquire mo ng securities. So, let's say for example, commission fees. Yan ay ika-capitalize natin. Meaning to say, ia-add po natin yan. Kapag sinabing capitalize, ina-add natin. Kasama yan sa initial recognition or initial measurement ng securities. Alright, so sa transaction cost, yung direct, ikinakapitalize natin. Yung indirect transaction cost naman ay outright expense. Another thing na kailangan mo malaman is yung subsequent measurement. Kadalasan, ang subsequent measurement ay kapag nag-prepare ka na as an accountant ng financial statements ng company. Alright? So, sa financial statement ng company on that day, paano mo i-measure itong financial assets na ito? So, ang ating subsequent measurement is, syempre, at fair value through OCI. Ang fair value is also the same as fair market value or market value. Alright, yan po ang ating subsequent measurement. Another concept na kailangan nating malaman or kailangan nating tandaan dito is the unrealized gain or loss. This unrealized gain or loss is a component of your OCI in your Statement of Comprehensive Income. Ano ba itong unrealized gain? Ikaw na accountant, kapag nag-prepare ka na ng financial statement ng company, kapag mayroong increase or decrease sa value from the carrying amount of the securities or ng financial asset na ito, nagkakaroon tayo ng unrealized gain or loss. Itong unrealized gain, kapag mas mataas ang fair market value niya sa carrying value, nagkakaroon tayo ng unrealized gain. Kapag mababa naman ang fair market value, nagkakaroon tayo ng unrealized loss. So, paano natin nakakalculate itong unrealized gain or loss? So the formula to calculate for our unrealized gain or loss is the fair value of your securities minus your carrying amount. Doon mo nakukuha itong unrealized gain or loss. Then another thing is kapag ibinenta mo na itong ating securities or ating financial asset, nagkakaroon tayo ng realized gain or loss this time kapag ibinenta mo na siya. Hindi na siya unrealized. So ano ang concept natin kapag nagbenta tayo? Alright, kapag ibinenta mo na itong ating financial asset measured at fair value through OCI, doon ka na nagkakaroon ng realized gain or loss. Itong realized gain or loss mo ay nire-recognize mo, kinu-close mo ito sa iyong retained earning. And any cumulative gain or loss from the unrealized gain or loss na account mo from the time of transaction date up to the time na ibibenta mo na siya, nagkakaroon ng cumulative gain or loss ang company, itina-transfer natin sa ating retained earnings. So, sa selling, dalawa ang gagawin natin. I-record natin yung pagbenta natin at i-record din natin yung pag-transfer natin ng ating unrealized gain or loss sa retained earnings. Ano naman ang formula natin sa ating realized gain or loss? To calculate for our realized gain or loss kapag ibinenta mo na siya is yung selling price, yung kung magkano mo siya naibenta minus the carrying amount of your financial asset. Kung mas mataas yung pinagbentahan mo, siyempre meron kang realized gain. Kapag mas mababa ang pinagbentahan mo kesa sa carrying amount niya, siyempre meron kang realized loss. The classifications of this financial asset on our balance sheet is non-current asset. Itong FVOCI natin ay non-current asset dahil hinuhold siya for a longer time. So, ito ang mga concept na dapat mong tandaan with regards to the financial asset measured at fair value through OCI or other comprehensive income. Mas maiintindihan mo ang mga concept na ito sa practice questions. So, ito ang ating practice questions. On April 12, year 1, so bumili si company ng securities kay ADR Company na 5 million. At bumili din siya ng securities kay Ian Company na 4 million. So, we have a total of 9 millions. At the end of the year, we have our fair market value of each of this security. On the year 4 of July 5th, binenta niya ngayon ang kanyang dalawang securities. So, nabenta niya all in all 8,400,000. What are the possible requirements or questions na pwedeng itanong sa'yo with regards to these practice questions? Ito yung mga possible na requirements sa practice questions na ito. So, ang pwedeng itanong dito sa practice questions examples natin ay yung carrying amount na financial assets na ito, yung unrealized gain or loss for the year, pwedeng sa year 1, year 2, or year 3, tanungin ang unrealized gain or loss. Pwedeng tanungin din ang cumulative unrealized gain or loss, pwede rin tanungin ang realized gain or loss. So, kapag ang tanong ng problem ay ang carrying amount sa year 1, kung ano yung fair market value ng ating mga securities, yan po ang carrying amount. Ang carrying amount on the year 1, December 31st, is yung fair market value of 8,400,000. Kapag ang tanong naman ay sa year 2 na carrying amount, ang sagot mo dyan na carrying amount is the 8,500,000. Ganun din naman kapag year 3 ang tinatanong, ang carrying amount ay 7 million. So we have the carrying amount on year 1, we have the carrying amount on year 2, and the carrying amount on year 3. So kung ano yung fair market value at the end of the year, kapag nag-present tayo ng ating financial statements, yun po ang magiging carrying amount ng ating financial asset. Kung ang tinatanong naman ay ang unrealized gain or loss for the year, sa year 1, ang unrealized gain or loss is yung difference between the original cost at saka yung fair market value ng year 1 na yon. So, ang difference ng original cost at ng December 31st of year 1, yan ang tinatawag na unrealized loss. So, we have an unrealized loss of 600,000 sa year 1. So, bumaba ang ating market value. So, nagkaroon tayo ng unrealized loss na 600,000. Negative kasi loss siya. Kapag ang tanong naman ay ang unrealized gain or loss for the year 2, ang difference between the carrying amount on year 1 at ng year 2, yan po ang yung unrealized gain or loss. This time, tumaas ang market value ng ating securities. So this one, nagkaroon tayo ngayon ng unrealized gain. Kasi mas malaki ngayon yung market value ng year 2 kaysa sa December 31st, year 1. So, we have an unrealized gain of 100,000. Dahil unrealized gain siya, magiging positive tayo dito. Kung ang tinatanong naman ay ang unrealized gain or loss for the year 3, yung difference ng dalawang ito, yan ang iyong unrealized gain or loss. Since mas lalo siyang bumaba value ng ating securities, nagkaroon tayo ulit ng unrealized loss. So, yung difference nitong dalawang ito, 8,500,000 at saka 7 million, which is 1,500,000, ay magiging unrealized loss natin. Alright, magiging unrealized loss siya. Unrealized kasi hindi pa natin siya naibibenta. So, kapag nabenta mo na siya, tsaka ka magkakaroon ng realized gain or loss. So, as an accountant, kapag nag-prepare ka ng financial statements ng company, yung difference ng market value sa carrying amount ng iyong securities, yan po ang magiging unrealized gain or loss mo. Kapag ibinenta mo naman siya, the difference between the carrying amount, yung carrying amount ng iyong securities on year 3, yan ang i-carry mo sa January 1st of year 4. Ang carrying amount ng ating securities ay 7 million. Alright? Yung difference na 7 million na carrying amount sa iyong selling price, yan ang tinatawag na realized gain or loss. Dahil mas mataas ang selling price natin kesa sa ating carrying amount ng year 3, nagkaroon tayo ng realized gain. Ang realized gain natin dito is 1,600,000. So, ang realized gains and loss ay kapag hindi mo pa siya naibibenta. Kapag nabenta mo na siya, tsaka ka magkakaroon ng realized gain or loss. Kung ang tinatanong ng problem mo is the cumulative unrealized gain or loss ng December 31st, year 1, ang answer mo dyan is still the 600,000 kasi wala pa siyang na-accumulate. That is only the first year. Kapag ang tanong naman is the cumulated unrealized gain or loss ng year 2, ang accumulated unrealized gain loss ng year 2 ay yung 600,000 at saka unrealized gain na 100,000. Therefore, ang cumulative unrealized gain or loss ng year 2 ay itong dalawang unrealized loss at saka unrealized gain. So, ito ang ating cumulative unrealized loss ng year 2. Yung unrealized loss na 600 at saka yung unrealized gain na 100. Pag pinagsama mo sila, we will end up with unrealized loss of 500,000. Yan po ang ating cumulative unrealized loss ng year 2. Kapag ang tanong naman ay cumulative unrealized gain or loss ng year 3, yung tatlong ito, i-cumulate natin, ina-accumulate natin, yan po ang ating cumulative unrealized gain or loss. So kung titingnan mo ito, we have a loss of 600 and another loss of 1,500,000. Then we have a gain of 100,000. So ang ibig sabihin, ang cumulative unrealized loss ng year 3 ay 2 million. So we have a cumulative unrealized loss for year 2 of 500,000 na loss. Tapos nagkaroon pa tayo ulit ng 1,500,000 na unrealized loss ng year 3. All in all, sa year 3, ang cumulative unrealized loss for the year 3 is 2 million na unrealized loss. Another way to calculate for the cumulative unrealized gain or loss, kukunin mo lang yung original cost at saka yung fair market value sa taon na yon. I-minus mo silang dalawa, then you will end up with cumulative unrealized gain or loss. Loss siya kapag mas mababa ang fair market value. Gain naman siya kapag mas mataas ang fair market value. Kapag ang tanong ay realized gain or loss, ang realized gain or loss is kapag ibinenta na ang securities na yan ng company or ng investor ang kanyang securities ng 8,400,000 na selling price, nagkaroon siya ng realized gain of 1,600,000. Ganito po ang pag-calculate ng mga carrying amount, unrealized gain or loss, cumulative unrealized gain or loss, realized gain or loss. So, paano natin i-journalize ang pag-purchase ng company sa April 12, year 1, at paano natin i-adjust ang fair market value sa bawat taon na i-prepare natin ang financial statements ng company, at paano naman ang journal entry nung ibinenta na natin itong ating securities. Ganito yan. So, nung in-acquire ng company ang mga securities na ito, we have a total of 9 million. Ang magiging entry natin dito is debit to financial assets, FVOCI. Ikaw na accountant, nung mag-prepare ka na ng financial statement ng company na ang fair market value ng securities na binili ng company ay naging 8,400,000. So, ang ibig sabihin, bumaba ang fair market value ng securities ng company. So, magkakaroon siya ng unrealized loss na 600,000. So, paano natin i-adjust yan at the end of the year kapag nag-prepare na tayo ng financial statements? Ganito ang ating adjusting journal entry. So, we debit our unrealized loss, OCI. Kailangan meron siyang kasamang OCI. Alam natin na ang account na ito ay nanggaling sa financial asset measured at fair value through OCI or other comprehensive income. Kasi meron tayong unrealized gain or unrealized loss na FVPL. Nanggaling naman yon sa ating financial asset measured at fair value through profit or loss. Then, ang credit natin dito ay yung securities. So, ang adjusting journal entry natin sa December 31st of year 1, dahil bumaba ang ating market value, is we debit our unrealized loss, OCI, of 600,000 and we credit the financial asset, babawasan natin kasi bumaba ang market value niya. So, ang magiging carrying amount ngayon ng ating securities ay 8,400,000 sa susunod na taon. So, on year 2, ang carrying amount na niya ay 8,400,000. Pagdating naman ng year 2 of December 31st, kapag nag-prepare ka na ng financial statement ng company, tumaas ang fair market value ng ating securities. Naging 8,500,000. So, the carrying amount of 8,400,000 compared to the fair market value of 8,500,000, nagkaroon tayo ng unrealized gain na 100,000. Adjusting journal entry natin dito ay debit to the financial asset and we credit the unrealized gains, OCI. So pagdating naman ng December 31st, year 3, mas lalong bumaba ngayon ang ating fair market value. So ang adjusting journal entry natin ngayon ng December 31st of year 3 is we debit our unrealized loss na 1,500,000, yung difference nilang dalawa. So, magkakaroon tayo ng adjusting journal entry ng December 31st, year 3 na debit to the unrealized loss OCI of 1,500,000, yung difference nung last year na fair market value, which is magiging carrying amount nito sa susunod na taon. So, ang difference nila is 1,500,000. So, our adjusting journal entry is debit to the unrealized loss OCI of 1,500,000 at saka natin babawasan ang ating financial asset or ang ating securities ng 1,500,000. Nung ibinenta naman siya noong July 5th of year 4, ang carrying amount ng ating securities nung ibinenta natin siya ay 7 million. Dahil nabenta natin siya ng 8,400,000, so nagkaroon tayo ng realized gain sa pagbibenta ng securities na ito of 1,400,000. So ang entry natin dito is we debit our cash of the 8,400,000 na na-receive natin o yung selling price ng ating securities. And then we credit our securities. We credit our financial assets, FVOCI. Aalisin na natin yan kasi ibinenta na natin. So we credit our securities. And we credit our retained earnings. So we credit our retained earnings of the difference of 1,400,000. So meron pa tayong isang journal entry dito sa pagbenta natin. Yung cumulated unrealized loss natin na 2 million. Isi-zero out na natin ang ating unrealized loss. Dahil debit yon, i-credit natin siya. So, ano ang magiging debit natin? Ang magiging debit natin this time is the retained earnings. Kasi ito-transfer natin yan sa retained earnings. So, we debit our retained earnings and we credit our unrealized loss of 2 million. Nung binenta niya, we debit our cash of 8,400,000 and we credit the financial asset na 7 million kasi yan na ang naiiwan. Yung difference, yung realized gain niya ay ilalagay natin sa retained earnings. So we credit our retained earnings of the difference. Then yung cumulated unrealized loss niya na 2 milyon, yan po ay i-close natin sa ating retained earnings. So we debit our retained earnings kasi loss siya. Babawasan natin yung retained earnings natin ng 2 milyon, yung cumulative. Then we credit our unrealized loss, OCI, kasi i-close na natin yung account na yan. Dahil nabenta na po natin yung securities natin. So, ganito po ang pag-entry ng ating financial asset measured at fair value through OCI or other comprehensive income. I'll see you in my next video.